Welcome to Stan's Elephant in the Room series. On behalf of Stan, which is an non-profit organization, with a mission to inspire, educate, and activate third-level students to stand up for global justice, sustainability, and equality. And I'm Kat. I'll be your student host for the series. Co-hosting with me today is Charlotte from Stan. She's the Education and Research Manager. Also Susie. And we have Pablo the Elephant as well. So just briefly about the series, we aim to create space for honest conversations around the most pressing topics of our time, the topics that are possibly uncomfortable and intimidating to address, but they are too important to ignore. And it's important to note that we don't have all the answers. We simply open up the space for discussions. And it will also be difficult for us to take an unbiased and neutral stance. However, we've chosen to feature knowledgeable and interesting speakers who align with STAN's values of global justice, equality, and sustainability. And some speakers will give a critical overview, while others will use the stories or based on their lived experience of the issue. Overall, we hope that their contribution will initiate the conversation and spark some insights. It's also absolutely fine if you disagree with what you hear, and we would love to hear from you regarding these topics, so do keep the discussion going. So let's head to today's session, which is titled The Elephant That Felt Alone, about the topic of mental health. And I would like to introduce you to our lovely guest speaker here, Niamh Doherty. So Niamh is from a rural village in West Cork. She studied social care at MTU Kerry, and became the Vice President for Welfare at MTU Kerry. Following this, she moved on to the Union of Students of Ireland, where she is currently working as the Vice President for Welfare. So thanks, Niamh, for being here with us today. So just to start off, can you start by sharing a bit about your personal journey with mental health and how it has shaped your perspective on this issue?
Thank you so much for having me. So I guess I'll start from when I was a child and when I can first remember mental health being an issue for me. I was always a really emotional child and incredibly empathetic, which actually affected me quite a lot. I would always take my friends' problems and they'd really affect me. And I'll always remember my mom as a kid when I'd come home and be really upset about things that my friends were going through. She would always flag that with me, that maybe it was something that I needed to work on, that I didn't, get so emotionally affected by other people. Now, I don't think that empathy is a bad thing. I think it's great. But sometimes when it's affecting your own mental health, that's when it becomes an issue. So this was just part of my life, and it still is. That's okay though. So when I was in school, I first reached out to counselling services when I was 17. I was going into my last year of school, really struggling, was going through a breakup that really affected me for years actually, because it was such a pivotal point of my life and I was at that impressionable stage, had a lot of emotions. It just wasn't a great time. And due to this, I really started lacking on school. Up until then, I was great. I was, had good grades. I was really involved in school. And, there was a big future there, which is what I thought and my family thought. But everything changed after that. So I completely lost any confidence that I had, and had quite low self-esteem. And alongside that, my grades started to drop. I had no interest in a future or no interest in attending college or university, which is what I had always imagined. And I think my family had always imagined that would have been the route that I went. I completely turned against that idea. But with my parents' strong encouragement, I powered on and I did my leaving cert. But I did access counselling at that age, but it was a bit too late to fix my grades. I wasn't going to get back to the point that I had been the year before. That was a great step to reach out and access that therapy. Maybe it was a little too late in that situation. It's never too late, but I could have done it earlier. So then I went to Cork and I studied a PLC, Me and my friends went and studied, and it kind of went downhill again from there. We got very much involved with drink and drugs, and that caused us both to end up dropping out together. But again, when I had got that PLC, straight away I went in for registered with the counsellor. So whenever I think about those years, she's a real impressionable person in my life that really helped me. As after my 3 months of not being in college, she encouraged me to come back and actually just do the grades or do the exams I could potentially pass. So I did that, and then that's when I also opened up to my family about everything that had been going on with her encouragement, and they were completely supportive, and I'm very grateful that I had that support system, as I know a lot of people don't have it. But they really helped me, and it got me back on my feet, which is when I then moved to Tralee and started my journey studying there. I'd say that's the
yeah, thanks for sharing, Niamh. It's really nice that your family is supportive, and also you have kind of the strength to just pull through and like also open up and try to seek support. And so leading to the next question, what inspired you to transition from your personal mental health journey to working professionally in this area, particularly in your role as the Vice President for Welfare?
So I would actually say my parents' divorce, which was only when I was about 12, but this was like a real pivotal point of my life, because I really wanted to care for others and ensure that others weren't in that position. At the time, I wanted to fix my parents. Now I know it's just about compatibility, but at the time I was like, I don't want any other child to have parents that aren't together. So that really started my journey. At the time, obviously, I didn't know that was a point that I was going to start, but I think when I look back and reflect now, that was definitely something that really helped me. And also my friends used to always come to me any issues that they had, as I mentioned before, and that kind of showed me that like I am an approachable person, and I am somebody that people want to reach out and talk to about issues. So that kind of like really made me feel like, you know, I do want to go and study something that is relevant, and that I can advocate for others, which is then when I went and studied social care. And also during my social care years, when I moved to Tralee, it was during COVID, and I kind of initiated these like group therapy sessions within my house. So me and my housemates would sit down. I would ask quite deep questions, write them down, of everyone in the house. We used to write them down. 3 months later, we'd come back, we'd look at it and see, you know, okay, what's the growth? Where have we improved? What do we need to improve? And those kind of things always just made me realize that like I am on the right track on, you know, what I'm studying and my future. So when I moved to Tralee, I then became a class representative for my class. So being that advocate and the voice. And then that made me move on to be the welfare officer for MTU Kerry. And I just wanted to, again, advocate and care for others. And I felt there was a bit of a gap there. So yeah, that's kind of what led me on to be the Vice President for Welfare. And then obviously now I'm the Vice President for Welfare with USI, so that was just a natural step up that I felt, why not go to a national level? I thought I did quite a good job in MTU Kerry, and my confidence also has recently in the last couple of years really started to, you know, it's just grown a lot, and I've grown as a person. So I just felt that jump was scary, but also I was well able and capable, and again, support systems are vital in this. So just saying that again, that like I'm very aware that some people don't have those support systems, so I am very, very grateful and privileged to have that.
Thanks for sharing, Niamh. Yeah, that was really interesting how it kind of started off with just your personal experience, and then you kind of started doing the things that you like and just sort of step up from there and take it into a more professional route. And since you also mentioned being the Vice President for Welfare at USI, can you then share a little bit about, like, from what you have been working with, what are some key mental health challenges that students are facing right now? And so just that purpose.
Yeah. Well, I guess academic pressure is definitely one of the main ones. Real heavy workloads, constant deadlines. It can be a massive jump from secondary school into college, which can really lead to a lot of anxiety and stress. A massive issue would be financial issues, which I'm sure we're all aware of. You know, the cost of living and accommodation prices, all of this really creates huge anxiety within students. Loneliness, it would be a huge thing, and isolation, again, that jump, and you're making new friends, you're going by yourself, you're moving out of home a lot of the time, you know, that transition can be really, really tough, and that's why seeking help is vital at early stages. Also, we're seeing a real lack of supports within colleges. The systems aren't really adequate at all. The access to mental health services takes far too long, really long waiting lists for counselling. So it's really difficult for students when I am saying go seek that help, and then this help isn't actually well enough. You know, it's not great. And in terms of changes and improvements, I guess as a national representative, but also just within MTU Kerry when I was there, there's a lot of changes that need to be done for students. Firstly, the increased funding for mental health services. There needs to be a really significant investment in mental health services, the counselling services, any support services, to be honest, and reduce waiting times. Right now, the student to counsellor ratio, or counsellor to student ratio, is at 1 to 2,240, which is a complete unsafe and unethical level. International guidelines say 1 to 1,000, so as you can tell, we're completely not hitting that. On-campus mental health awareness, universities need to create more spaces that people can openly talk, which stigma needs to be reduced. I actually did my dissertation on the barriers to students seeking help, and stigma was by far the number one finding, so a lot more needs to be done to break that stigma down. Also, I think that a more holistic approach to student wellbeing is needed. Mental health services, they should be integrated with like academic supports, financial advice, and housing assistance. They need to look at student wellbeing as a whole, and addressing like the root causes, which are often financial or housing issues. Flexible learning options as well, like offering more hybrid and more flexible learning really helps students, and also better communication and signposting. Many students, when they come to college, they don't know where to turn, where to look for, where to access that help. So universities really need to like improve communication around the services available, how to access them, and just making it easier for students. I would say, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. That was, I think I do recognize some of the key points there that I also come across of, like the challenges right now, and it seems like there's a lot to work on at the moment. Just kind of like a question from that, because I'm also curious, like what is the main work that you guys are doing as the USI right now to kind of like help tackle these challenges?
So a lot of that would be advocating for better services. So we had a meeting with the Minister for Further and Higher Education, where I said, the mental health services right now are terrible. Like, what are you guys doing? There needs to be more support services in there. So it's like about lobbying the ministers and the people who can actually make change. But also, if we're not getting that help from the people that should be helping us, then we need to do something ourselves. So like running campaigns on reducing stigma, mental health, seeking help, providing students, resources and trainings to assist with that. And also we do a lot of support so in each college they have their own student union, and those welfare officers, we give a lot of training and help to them for them to then be able to provide for their students, because we're obviously not fully on the ground. They're the ones actually interacting with their students. I'd say that's just a couple of main bits there.
Thank you so much for your input and for just sharing the amazing work that you guys are doing. There are some questions in the Q&A, so maybe I'll just read out a few.
Yeah.
I think this one is linked to your personal experience. So how was it broaching the conversation with your parents, as it can feel a bit scary? Yeah,
so this is actually a great question. I was going to try touch on that as well. I think that it is quite scary, and I'm lucky that my mom is always fostered quite an open communication, and was always, open about her emotions, and that really helped me. But like my dad, on the other hand, is a 60-something-year-old West Cork Irish man, and sometimes that is really difficult. But for me, like I think that putting yourself in you know, making yourself uncomfortable by actually forcing these conversations with people is so vital. Like, my dad was forced to be a girl dad by me, you know. When my parents separated, he had to have me for weekends of just me, you know what I mean? That, and I was an emotional kid, so I'm pretty sure he knew what was coming, but I definitely did make him uncomfortable by going and crying to him and breaking down after all my court stuff and the drugs and alcohol. And, you know, I think that, yeah, it is really difficult, and I completely empathize with that. But I would really encourage everyone to, like, make themselves a bit uncomfortable and be that change within your family, and be that one that does start those conversations that we find awkward or embarrassing. I think I answered that, sorry.
Yeah, I think it also kind of really fits in with the series of the elephant in the room. It's there, and sometimes you kind of just have to, like, look at it and, like, try to work around it, not just
Absolutely.
like avoiding it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's another question asking if there is any advice for students to feel less lonely in university.
So straight away, I would say joining clubs and societies. That was something that I kind of regret, that I could have done more and could have joined more, and because that's where you're going to find your like-minded people. Like, if you're going to join a society, then everyone else that's in that society also has similar things that they're interested in, because you're all in the same society. So it's really things like that, is joining those things that you know, you could easily not, and you could easily avoid, and you could easily just go home and maybe stay by yourself. But again, it's about pushing yourself and pushing your boundaries and making yourself a bit uncomfortable. But also, I would say, as soon as you do get into college, if you're feeling low, like, book in with that counsellor. Like, you know what I mean? I think that a lot of people think that you have to be, like, really, really bad to actually reach out. You absolutely don't. Like, straight away, if you're feeling anything, like, isolation is a perfect reason to reach out to the counsellor. But yeah, I'd say they're the main 2 points there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it's kind of, as you said already, like, with the problem with stigma also, it's sometimes hard for students to reach out because they think that, oh, then I'm not in that such horrible state to be reaching out.
Absolutely. And that's actually one more point that I'd like to just reiterate, is something I found quite difficult was, like, comparing my problems to someone else and completely invalidating my problems by, like, somebody else's are worse, when that's literally not the case. And everyone deals with trauma in completely different. So let's say my parents' divorce was traumatic, and it's a trauma for everybody, but it's about how it affects you and your body. And it affected me a lot, whereas others could be like, didn't really make a difference to my life. So it's really important to never compare yourself and your emotions and how your body deals with things to anybody else.
That's very important. Thank you for sharing. I think we're preparing to close off because it's almost time. And yeah, so thank you again for your very insightful take on the topic, sharing a lot of the work that you've done and, like, are doing, and also, like, kind of just touching on your experience and how it has shaped your professional path.
Just, can I say one more point? Sorry. Another thing about stigma and mental health is Movember is a really huge campaign, and we will be participating in that. And statistically, men are the ones that do not reach out for help compared to women. There's a real massive stigma, even more so when it comes to men. So it's really important that, like, as a female, we're allies and assist them, because often women are better at seeking help and we feel more comfortable. And, you know, I mean, we can go into all the reasons why that is, but it's really important to, you know, help everyone around us as well. And yeah, just foster the open communication with your buccos that you think will never talk, you know. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I think it's also, like, tomorrow's mental health day.
Yeah.
Or, like, the whole week. So yeah, this topic really comes at the right time. So thank you again for sharing, Niamh, and also for everyone for your attention and also the questions. We hope you enjoyed this session on the elephant that felt alone on mental health, and we hope that you would join us again next Wednesday for our next topic on the rise of the far right. Thanks again for listening, and we really hope that you would join us again for upcoming sessions.